Good evening, everyone. My name is Bran, and thank you for tuning in to Worlds and Crafts, a stream devoted to setting building and opening the curtain of creation on all of the details therein. Every Wednesday, we'll be talking about metaplots, minutiae, mechanics, and over the course of the stream, building a setting piece by piece with input from you, our lovely community. So, how is everyone doing tonight? Hey, Mark. I'm honestly doing all right, you know? Had a little trouble setting this up, but it seems to be working now, so everything's doing pretty good here. So, just dive right into it, what I'm really planning on doing here on the stream is I kind of want to talk about kind of where you start with setting building. Something hit me recently, which was that not a lot of people know how to build a setting. That is to say, I think more people than they realize themselves know how to actually build setting material because they do it all the time. I mean, it's something that I think when we talk about it, it's kind of fraught with this idea that, oh, I'm not doing it professionally, so therefore I'm not really setting building. And me personally, I've never professionally built a setting, but I decided after years of not really finishing a setting that I want to do it here on stream live, because why not? If anything, it'll be fun, right? Like we have a couple, not very many, but that's okay. I figure we'll take it easy on the first stream. So either way, what I have here on my screen is I have two tools that I'm going to be using quite a lot, which is Google Docs, because, ever since Google came out with the document program, it was just like took over everything. And then I'm also going to be using a program called Incarnate, which won't be using right away, but it's an absolutely fantastic mapping program. Mostly because it does a lot of the hard work for you. As you can see, it just built shorelines for me just by me dragging a mouse along. So this is a map type called Fantasy World, and it automatically fills in quite a lot of the details for us, and it's pretty wonderful in that way. That way we can just kind of skip a lot of the nitty gritty of design and really just utilize it for some of the larger things. And then there's another tool I'm going to be using, which is going to be in place of the setting streams and notes. Occasionally, I'm going to be using Kumu.io, which is a relationship mapping program. That is to say, I think it's mostly built for flowcharts. For building social networking analysis maps for companies and things like that. But it's going to be useful to setting building. I'm sure you do think that, Mark. I've been told that you are the Kumu master. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right either, but only assume. But yeah, so I'll be using this to input all kinds of elements, because I feel like, and this is the first time I'd be doing this, but I feel like what would be really useful to us here on the stream for creating a visual information map is to build elements based on each piece of information we put in. So that'll all become clear as it comes into use, but for now, I want to skip all that and just kind of return to some basic theory concepts that I think are somewhat important for setting building. So when I went into this stream idea, kind of sitting here going, what on earth how on earth do I talk about setting building? I mean, because it's something you just do, something I've been doing for a long time. So how do you talk about setting building? And boy, can I talk if you haven't noticed. So after some chewing on it, I realized that a setting is just a framework to support a story. All it is. The only thing that any setting does. Whenever kids are playing outside, they're building a setting inside their own head to support the story they're telling, right? Like, I mean, it's a childhood psychology thing where you can kind of reverse engineer the things a child builds to kind of get a clue at what's going on in their head. And the same is for us, is that we create settings to tell specific kinds of stories. So the very first step I would personally take when building a setting, and I've never actually asked this question expecting an answer because it's all been in my head, is what kind of story do I want to tell? What kind of story do you like to tell? So actually, I would like to ask that for the few users in chat right now is, what is a kind of story that you have always wanted to tell in a tabletop role-playing game, but never had the opportunity to? That's all right. I mean, honestly, I don't think it's a question that many people consider. I know I didn't. Loud thinking intensifies. Yeah, it's definitely kind of a funny question to ask because a lot of the times when we're thinking about the kind of stories we want to tell, a lot of us are thinking about it in the perspective of a player, not in this perspective of building a setting. So I personally have a lot of different types of stories I want to tell. I am a sucker for camp. No, not Campbell Friedman. Reference to my Traveler game. No, I'm a sucker for campy things. Um, and that is to say that sorry, I was reading what Rose Dragon has said. And that's fair. Yay camp. I don't know who's behind that account, but I'm assuming it's Ravnos. See you. Camp. I really enjoy it personally because I think it adds a certain amount of levity to an otherwise potentially very hard situation. And it can help you to convey really difficult messages in a way that isn't difficult to digest. So I really like campy things, very goofy things. In many ways, I think grimdark is a type of camp, but it's not my favorite one. So the kind of story that I'm interested in telling personally is a dark fantasy story. That is to say, a fantasy where you can escape to in your head, so to speak, but that is full of all kinds of dark and terrifying things. Maybe primal fears or cosmic fears or anything. Yeah, like the fear of being eaten or the fear of being trapped in a space you can't even properly perceive. That's the kind of story I'm interested in. But I'm also interested in telling slice of life stories. I've done the whole epic. Broken Golem. Yeah. Because a kind of story, you're right, is a theme. So a story theme. A good point. Yeah, not an actual cohesive plot. No, we don't have that. But we can segue into that in a minute because it is actually super relevant to the thought process here. But I want to tell slice of life stories in a dark fantasy setting. That's kind of the stuff that I'm interested in seeing that I don't feel like I've seen a lot of personally. And maybe there are games out there that do that. Sure, there are, but I haven't personally run into them yet. And I think it's a good place to start as any. So, so to begin with, I'm gonna write some base notes for themes. And say dark fantasy. Don't do that. I have to actually use format. dark fantasy, and slice of life. So I sure can make the font a lot bigger. Or better yet, I'll just zoom in. Is that easier to see? Yeah, and I mean, I didn't prepare anything as far as the setting goes. I didn't want to. I wanted to do it live on stream because it should be, I think, a showcasing of thought process. Like, that's why I'm here, is so we can talk about it. So Broken Golem, a minute ago, you said, story is more theme than plot. Yes and no. I think in a role-playing game, you're absolutely correct. It is theme. But, I mean, we build settings all the time if you're talking about, authors. If you're talking about writing a novel. You have a plot in mind you want to tell. Like, there's a short story I wrote recently that's about a young botanist by the name of Alex Wolf who finds himself uncovering some very strange happenings in the region around here in New Hampshire. And that's not much of a plot, but it's technically a plot. And you could do the same for a role-playing game, but we would have to ultimately expand it. So, doing slice of life and dark fantasy. Then we'll want to come up with some other notes as well, some other themes. And one of the other ones that I was interested in doing was I think either Renaissance style technology or Middle Ages. I'm not hugely fond of bronze or primitive type things because if you go back that far, you kind of lose touch with people. There's absolutely so few people out there who understand the ins and outs of Bronze Age tech because it's just a different life completely. So I want to keep it relevant. But so I digress. Think about that for a moment and consider with me what kind of stories, what kind of themes you're interested in inside a setting. I did some research out of curiosity, and apparently the first known use of the word setting was the 14th century, describing the manner and position that something is placed. And I think that is, frankly, kind of poignant because what we're doing right now is creating a manner and position in which our story will be placed. So we're gonna have to be considering all kinds of themes for that. Okay. So when I start creating an actual full setting, usually much quicker than just a couple minutes of thinking about this thing. Usually I get inspiration from it. And so I haven't been looking at any mood boards lately, but that's because I thought it would be useful to do that here on stream, is to think about imagery. But I don't want to put in any dangerous Google searches either while we're on stream. But definitely be utilizing Pinterest for that. So look at some dark fantasy art. That's spooky. I think probably a little too dark for what I'm looking for. That's nice. And kind of just going through and choosing images that I think are going to help us to form an idea about what exactly we are doing. Ah, right. Sorry, mood board. So, I did. So a mood board is a board that you create on either Pinterest, or it doesn't even matter. You can save the images to your computer. But either way, there are also programs out there that are specifically designed for mood boards, where you go and you find imagery, or you go out in the world and you take images, or you do drawings. Whatever you do to draw your mind, yourself, into a specific mood. And I think that it's very useful for creating things, especially something as nebulous as a setting, because a setting, again, we're telling a story. So the kinds of stories that we're going to be telling are really going to be affected deeply by the mood we are cultivating. Go back to some dark fantasy stuff. And so what I did is I went on Pinterest and I just kind of searched for dark fantasy. And I'm currently just, trolling through the images, and I already saved that one. Looking for some other interesting, man, there's some really good stuff in here. That, yes. And obviously, I don't own any of these images, so this is just me referencing them. But I'm going to go ahead and save that to the setting building stream. And that has been now saved to my setting building. Another thing, though, that you can use for cultivating mood for your own creative process is sound. And this one I'm not entirely certain about, as far as the okayness goes. But if it turns out it's not okay, I mean, we'll go into it later. We'll just cancel it. So mynoise.net is a lovely website that you can pay a flat fee to get access to a bunch of different soundboards. And all of these soundboards are able to be mixed and matched as well. Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate you. To create a variety of cacophony of sounds. I don't know, not a cacophony, but a bunch of different sounds. And they also have categories that you can search by. So there's some favorites: noise blocker, healthcare, sound therapy, meditation. I'm going to look for eerie, personally, because I think eerie is where it's at. So there's one called Oblivion, highlighted after I selected that, and I'm sure none of you can see this because it's so small. But it's considered a meditation soundboard, and also eerie. Open that up. Ooh, that's nice. I don't want it to get too loud, though. And let me make sure I've got desktop audio currently not setting out. There we go. Should be able to hear it. And Canva is a great site for mood boards as well. Awesome. Go ahead and copy that. Check that out. Yeah. So this might be a little too on the intensely spooky side for what I'm looking for. But I can also amp up things, amp up different sounds. And this is my favorite part about mine. The ability to create your own custom. And I'm just checking out Canva now because... Oh, and hello, Neva. How are you? I'm doing superb. Thank you very much for asking. We were just talking about mood boards and mynoise, and also Canva, which is something I'm new to, and I'll have to check out likely after the stream, but I may end up using it later on, because I'm personally not a huge fan of Pinterest, but it is what I had available at the time. So either way, setting up our sounds personally helps me a lot because, well, I suffer from ADHD and my brain wanders like a child on sugar. So creating this space is really, I think, important, setting the mood for yourself. So now that I'm here, immediately I'm thinking about something primeval. As I bump my mic. Sorry. I'm immediately thinking about something primeval. Something in the origin. And that is a perfectly valid place to start a setting as well, if you're interested in it. A very important question when you're talking about dark fantasy in general, is, are there gods? Do people know about the gods? Do they actually exist? Are they even comprehensible? Are they good? Or are they malicious? Sometimes it's good to start a setting there, if you really want to flesh it out from there. In the past, I've created creation myths. That was odd to say. I have developed creation myths for settings, and it's something we could very well do here. So, maybe for a moment, let's talk about methods of approach. I would call this one in the beginning.
Prom cares not for the whims of man.
So with the in the beginning setting approach, you start at the very origin. What are the core themes of what's going on here? Maybe there were twin gods who toyed and played with the clay until they developed something and disappeared. Or maybe they fought and tore the world apart, reformed again. Or maybe they killed each other. You can start a setting pretty easily with that, as you can imagine the ways that a world like that might develop. If you lived in a world that began as an object that two all-powerful children fought over, you can imagine that it would be a chaotic place, right? Like a marble? Sure, like a marble. And maybe inside there's strange things. Oh, man. The fact that I completely missed that. Mark.
Damn you.
But yeah, so there's that method. But then there's also, I don't know, let's call it, there's also the method where you just come up with something, anything, a thing you really like. Hi, Kay. How are you? And now you're just referencing Star Wars there, Wes. Stream hype. Thank you. Appreciate you. We were just talking about well, setting a mood for yourself for your own setting. You know, setting using either Pinterest or Canva or Canva. I can't talk. Canva. Now that sounds terrifying. Pinterest or Canva to build a visual mood board for what you're doing, and then also I'm using mynoise.net to create sounds that would help me be in the mood for what I'm doing. How dare you? There we go. You know, I really wish there was a solid answer to that, and that's why I'm kind of being a little nebulous right now. Like, I'm gonna bring it in. We're gonna bring it in and do something solid in a bit, but I kind of just want to do a little bit of a service to the different ways that you can approach this. You know, it's entirely possible that if you maybe grew up in a religion, the idea of a creation story isn't that far-fetched. You know, the idea of a creation story is very familiar, so maybe you think at some point, what if there was one god that made this place, but there's something different about it? It really depends where you as a person are coming from, because this is your expression, you know, and I will be certainly getting into a solid train of things more here, but I definitely wanted to talk about theory. If it's getting boring, if you're not enjoying the theory thing, please just say so. We will move on. But the other method I was talking about to start, instead of in the beginning with developing from a god, is developing from a location. Have you ever been walking in the woods and you found just a giant tree? You just found this massive, like, silver beech tree. And its roots are tangled and gnarled, and they pierce the ground, and you can feel them hard under the give of the earth beneath your feet. And you can look up and you can see the light just passing through all of those tangled branches, and it just looks like this stoic watcher. That could be a place to start a setting. You could very easily just let your mind wander from that one point, from that single focus. This tree is important. Why is it important? Maybe the tree is a confluence, a place where spirits come to gather. It's a place where the energies of nature all converge. Or maybe it doesn't really exist here. The tree is too real. It's more real than the rest of the world around it, and it is in fact an intrusion from another dimension. You can see how easy it is to create a tiny little root cluster of a story, of a setting, just from anything. So maybe we'll say, then the other method of starting a setting is the mundane made fantastic. Fantasy? Fantastic. And so, develop setting from a simple object location that struck you some inspiring. Create a series of ideas. The object. Branch away from it like a fractal. Okay. So that's another way you could develop a setting. Wait, who put the who put the ASMR tag on this? Ian, was that you? I mean, I just really like nice sounds, and I don't actually get ASMR triggers. Like, segue real quick, I don't get them. They don't happen for me. Oh, hopefully that wasn't too loud. Tried to pull my voice away. All right. Well, moving on from my voice being an ASMR trigger. Hey, by the way, how do you like the new microphone? I'm really enjoying it a lot. So, we have the one concept for setting building in the beginning. Develop your setting from the ground up, from the creation of the world. The mundane made fantastic. Whatever's in your backyard or around you that strikes you in an interesting way, and you decide, wow, this sounds cool. I want to make a setting off of this. Another one, though, I would say, is imagining a person. Imagining, taking a person from the world, kind of plucking them from the world around you, and putting them. I certainly am not, Mark. But if you take a person and you think, this person, I could see them in this weird place. I don't know, maybe you run across that one person in your town who seems completely mundane, but you kind of wonder if they, are secretly a serial murderer, and, maybe they have a million bodies in their basement. And it's easy for your mind to kind of branch off of that. And a lot of times we stop ourselves because we don't want to, go running away with reality. We don't want to start thinking that this person actually is a serial murderer. So, take away their identity from them when you do this to them. Don't actually think about these people that way, please. That's not healthy. But you can utilize that natural tendency to think about the worst case scenario to create a setting. Because you're developing a story, and settings exist to support stories. Stories are everywhere. Stories are in the world all around you. Every time you look at something and you make an assumption, you have written a story. So you can create a setting off of really anything. There is a... there was... in the town I grew up in, there was this guy who, for some reason, he always wore, 20 layers. And they were all, really light sports clothes, and clearly secondhand. So, he was wearing, I shouldn't say he, sorry, they. They were wearing, is masculine presenting, but I don't know them. They were wearing, fishnets, and shorts, and boots, and, a skirt, and, leggings, not leggings, sorry, they were wearing so many different layers of light things, jogging this way, and their head would always be covered as well. And part of me secretly wondered at one point, are they an alien? And so are they hiding something about themselves, but under so many layers of things when they just done so with, I don't know, the well-fitting anything? What is it that made them do that? And I'm sure there's a very specific and valid reason for them personally, but nonetheless, mystery about it, the unknowing, and the inappropriateness of asking created a story, or it could create a story. What kind of scenario could exist for this person? So this person not being who they are in that hometown anymore, but someone else who wears many layers of clothes, many layers of fabric to hide something, maybe, or maybe out of some cultural tendency. So, in either scenario, people are all the story you need. Stories, fine. Why not? Okay. So, people are the stories you need. Take individuals around you that provoke thought and curiosity. And take them take the curious parts, them away into your mind, develop story. And I know for a fact plenty of game masters do this all the time. Plenty of writers. I mean, I don't think Rick is here in chat, but Rick could, I'm sure, tell you he's probably done that. Absolutely, I am totally game for semi-off topic, but world creation related questions. And while I'm waiting on that question, there is one other method I can think of, and that is just honestly piggybacking off someone else. Piggyback off of your favorite setting, really. Yeah, just completely go, I like this particular setting, that somebody did, but I can't tell the story I want to tell in it. Like, I like all these ideas that they have. I like all these things that they do. Like, someone that I really admire for their creative direction is Guillermo del Toro. And so when I think about the setting he developed for Pan's Labyrinth, and I go, that's really cool. Granted, the actual setting for the story, I couldn't tell any stories I want to tell. Nonetheless, you can totally piggyback off of people's things like that. It's a starting point. You're not going to be copying it, right? You don't want to ever do that. You don't want to just straight up copy someone's stuff, but you can totally piggyback off of anything you've seen created. Yeah, make the unoriginal original, exactly, Wes. And what do you mean, my random cat? Also, like, purely aesthetic inspirations? You just mean, like, things you see? Okay, so things that you can see that inspire you to make something happen in the game. Oh yeah, I see Puppy Lover just put up their questions, so I will get to my random cat's question in just a second. Puppy Lover, when setting up a game such as Siren, how do you set up the world chasers to fit into the narrative? What kind of fonts can you fonts? When you say fonts, what do you mean? Do you mean like typeface, or do you mean as in a font of inspiration? I'll assume you mean font of inspiration. So, okay, just making sure. I'm just thinking about that question. So maybe this is revealing a little bit too much about my own personal methods, but I, like Natalie, am kind of a pantser. I don't really prepare everything ahead of time. I come with ideas, I come with notes, but I really want to be able to riff off of, yes, my favorite typeface. I really like to riff off of what the players are giving me, because I think it creates a more immersive experience in which it feels a little bit more organic for the players, at least for coming from me. There are plenty of people out there who can, write out a story and make it feel organic, and I'm just like, ow. Nonetheless, when it came to Siren and the Chasers, I actually kind of did what we're doing here, where I set up some themes in my head. I said, what kind of themes do I want? So I wanted, with the Siren game that I ran for you, I set up occultic as one of the themes, and so I wanted this kind of, and that was a visual theme more than a philosophical theme, but then I also kind of had a cosmic horror feeling about it that I wanted to fulfill. So I didn't really plan too much about them. I kind of just said, all right, I think that in order for them to blend in, there's got to be some regular folks there, right? It makes sense that in order for them to operate in the world without scrutiny, they need to appear harmless. I already had most of the setting in my mind because it was the modern world, but it was a alteration of the modern world. It's very easy when you have a strong basis for a setting to then tweak it, which is why I honestly suggested piggybacking off of your favorites, because there are plenty of things you can do differently that that will make your setting very compelling. Like, imagine how much change would be required in a setting where, let's say, there's angels and demons, and they live in a caste-like hierarchy, and they don't really have explicit originality. They don't have that they don't have the ability to be completely independent. Now, what happens when you change the setting to suddenly give them independence? Everything. I see you there. Does that answer your question, Puppy Lover? Or is that, like, too nebulous? While I'm waiting for a response from that, so my random cat, things that you see that can inspire you to take to make something happen in a setting. I definitely do that a lot. We'll end up, having I'll end up having a situation where I've got a setting in mind. I'll use my Traveler game, for example, where I will see something in a show, or I'll see something in a book, or I'll see something, in life, and just the way that it looks causes me to feel a specific way. Yeah, like that. Yeah. So, Danny and I found a creepy, like, corrugated metal junk-like compound in the woods under a local mountain. That was terrifying and inspiring. No, really, it is a Call of Cthulhu or Kult setting, for sure. Yeah, very Fallout vibe. What was a good story? I'm gonna finish typing up this piggybacking off your favorites thing, so... Is there a vault in New Hampshire? Probably. And in honor of the question that was asked by my random cat, I definitely think I am going to add your aesthetics. Because it is a valid place to start. Oh. That's fair. But yeah, pure aesthetics is a valid place to start. Anything that inspires you visually. Really, it's pretty nebulous and pretty vague, but nonetheless, I think that just about covers. Not even, it doesn't touch the tip of the iceberg of ways you can begin to create a setting. It really doesn't. Just like painting, just like writing, just like any creative process, it's really all about you and what you want to do. And so these methods that I have outlined are the ones that I've used in the past. In the beginning, developing a setting from the ground up, from the creation of the world, the mundane made fantastic. Developing a setting from a simple object or location that struck me and inspired me, gave me ideas. People are all the stories you need. Taking individuals from my life who provoked thought or curiosity and developing them into a story. And then piggybacking off of your favorites, choosing a story or setting that you really admire and deciding what you want to change and what events you would like to see happen inside that setting. So, now that we've done all that, talked about that, there are some other more detailed themes that I would personally like to add to the setting that we're going to be building on stream. And we're approaching 7 o'clock shortly here, in about an hour, so I think I'll just start diving into actually creating our first element for the setting, where I want to start. But I want to add some more themes first. So there are a couple things I did prepare, ideas that I had. And these are things like that I just think would be really cool to have in this setting. I keep on bumping this mic. Lord help me. The things that I think would be cool to have in this setting are elemental spirits that run rampant. Rampant? Oh. That's fantastic. So shout out everyone to OBS and the noise gate doing its job. I set up a noise gate based on blah 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 blah. Tutorial. That's the word I'm looking for. Noise gate set up based on a tutorial, and it's working fantastically apparently. Noise gates are life. Yes, they are. I know. I actually was able to tune out Danny behind me playing Animal Crossing the other day, so that was fantastic. I don't think I will bump away to my heart's desire. So things I think would be cool to have in this setting: elemental spirits that run rampant. Magic exists, but is inherently dangerous. Because what would be a good dark fantasy setting if magic wasn't gonna eat you? And initially I had wrote one of the potential themes as much technology is closer to the 17th century, which is well past the Renaissance. So I had conflicting ideas, and this will certainly happen to you too. If you've never made a setting before, if you've never written a story before, you will have one idea at one point and then an opposing idea. And something else I would like to see as well is an alternative elements system. So I think, I guess that is technically piggybacking off your favorites. A lot of fantasy settings use elements, right? And elements are what? Not purely, but they were kind of made centralized with alchemy. They were that's the most popular version in the West. And then of course there's the Chinese 5 elements, but elements are realistically a setting of their own. They're a setting upon which life is based. At least, in those particular philosophies. So I have a random question for everyone. What is the most interesting element system you have run into personally that you find interesting? I think I'm gonna change out our sounds because this one's becoming a little bit too bland. But that one was called Oblivion, so I'm gonna keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and look for something else, see what else we could. Breath. Ominous. Okay. Look at ominous. Yikes. An interesting thought. Now we have Mistborn in Final Fantasy VII, and then Types of Blood. I mean, of course, the concept of elements is just the base portions of life. Are you talking about my noise, Rose Dragoness? You got it. I'm actually surprised that's a tough question for you. I thought you would have had a favorite, but maybe not. Maybe you're just too exposed. Too much knowledge up in that noggin. Too many experiences. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I actually think the alchemical system is pretty neat. And when I say the alchemical system, I mean the true blue, not just the English 5 elements transferred into alchemy. You Alright, what am I singing? I'll interrupt the stream to sing. It'll give everyone a time to think about their favorite elements. I mean, there's a song that's stuck in my head, which is the song "Sing" slash I think it's called "Make Some Noise" by Hosier. You've got a friend in me. All right, all right. We're gonna just go look up some lyrics because I don't actually know them. Sing the song in my herd. Yeah, I actually don't know the entire tune to "You Got a Friend in Me." I'm pretty sure it's simple, but I've never listened to the song outside of Toy Story, so I think I'm good. Remember when we'd sing just for the fuck of it, any joy it would bring. And I forgot the rest of the words, so please hold. Okay. Remember when you'd sing just for the fuck of it, any joy it would bring. And the... You too? I'm forgetting completely. Yeah, sorry. Just completely lost it. So that's what you get for now. I'll get something at the end of the though for you because that wasn't a full song. Just my brain is too full of things, and I think this ominous board is ruining my song memory. Oh, that's a great image. The background creepy noises with you singing is awesome. Yeah, I can sing. No, I do always remember the chorus of the song though. You didn't have to sing it right, but who could call you wrong to put your emptiness to melody, your awful heart to song? You didn't have to sing it nice, but honey, sing it strong. At best you'll find a little remedy, at worst the world will sing along. So honey, sing and sing and sing and sing and sing and sing, sing, sing and sing and sing and sing and sing and sing, sing. There you go. No, no, Tobias. The stream has not changed to karaoke craft. All right, so let's roll back here. Let's bring it back in. So some of those alternative elemental themes, I think that's something that's a little bit too much for me to even bother chewing on right this second. But I definitely do want to have a place to start. So I think that where I would like to start personally is with a religion. So I'm gonna go to kumu.io. Because what is more human than religion, huh? I'm gonna go to kumu.io and they'll do it by mouse so you guys can see. I'm gonna click add element. I'm gonna create an element. And I'm just gonna come up with a random name, and it might be a placeholder, it might be permanent. But let's call it the circle of life. No. No, let's just call this the founders. Yeah. The founders. And I'm gonna make this a religion because I have an image in my head. After all this talking and all this stuff, I have a very strong is some standing stones. Because who doesn't like standing stones? I mean, of course, there's the famous Stonehenge. Go ahead and save that to our board. That's a cool one. Ooh, I like that. Ooh, no, I like that. That's a sculpture, but I don't care. That's beautiful. Zoom in on these images. Oh, there we go. Try opening the image. There we go. Better. Okay. Hi there, Natalie Nutmeg. How are you? They do look a bit like the stones from Skyrim, you're right. So, the founders. So I think for this setting, standing the stones, ancient holy sites of weathered temples and dace. I don't know if it's daces. Platforms. There we go. Platforms open to the sky. In the sky, often with strange carvings associated to them. Okay, I have one more thing here. That is considered a holy site by, and I'm literally just going to put in brackets because it's easiest for me, current day religion. Done. So that now for me is a starting point. That we have this world, and there's nothing else we know about this world other than that there are standing stones and ancient holy sites of weathered temples and platforms open to the sky, often with strange carvings associated, considered a holy site by a current day religion. And so I'm going to change the element type on here because I didn't set them up. Well, we're going to set up some element types. It's not a person. It's not an organization. It is, in fact, a religion. Well, a religion. It is a nebulous thing, but nonetheless, it is a religion. Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds Norse because, well, if you think about it, there's very few things that stand the test of time in cold climates other than stone. And, so stone carvings are really one of the few things that have stood the test of time as far as some places are concerned. But there's that. So from there, I would personally go, okay, what does the region around that look like for me? You can kind of just dive down into it, and I actually want to see if I can get input from you guys about this. So based on that description, standing stones and ancient holy sites of weathered temples and platforms open to the sky, often with strange carvings associated to them, considered to be a holy site by a current day religion. Take that. Take the mood sounds you have right here, and then also take the image. What do you think is something that is nearby? Or what do you think one of the primary sites? Call them standing stones. Is there anything particular? It could be anything. It could be a type of tree. It could be a weather pattern. Mounds and valleys. Okay. So, like, maybe like burial mounds? Let's add a new element. Mounds. So I'm going to add a new element. I'm going to call it the ancient burial mounds. Get that these float automatically. I'm going to change that in settings. Actually, float. Yes, pin the element. Please and thank you. Goodbye. Okay. So, do we have another element? And another element. So each element that I'm doing is going to be either a locale, a religion, a faction, faith, a family, character, and so the ancient burial mounds is definitely going to be a locale. It's going to be a large area. So we'll be changing the view to show that in a better way. And I'm not going to connect any of these yet, but you can connect elements with IO. And then let's then also add Rose Dragoness. Use at a swamp with offering bat made of stones. I can see that. Hmm. Do you think it's a bog or a swamp? That is to say, is it stagnant and like kind of not lifeless, but kind of the stinky type thing, or is it, a source of fresh water, or a filtration from a source of fresh water? Because I think that's important. It's going to set a philosophical element for us about that. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to describe it. Philosophically, if it's a bog, there's something more eerie to it, because all life that we are aware of, not aware of, all life on our scale can't really survive based on bogs. But marshes are the source of life for us. Not marshes, sorry, swamps. Yeah, bogs are a bit darker, but they are an important part of the ecosystem. But they don't really help us as bipedal mammals. They don't really do anything for us. But swamps do. Swamps do quite a lot for us. Swamps are the filtration system of nature. They give us clean water. So, I mean, yeah, I think it could be cool to be either. And I'm asking Rose Dragoness because, you're the one who mentioned it. And, I mean, what's wrong with bog witches? And neither answer is right, by the way. Like, okay. So let's call it, let's go back to Pinterest. I want to go search for bog. Bogs can be large, open bodies of water like that, with a lot of stagnant water with grasses and this is what bogs are like. I don't know. They're definitely kind of a breeding ground for all kinds of small life. So it's good for that. Not hugely wonderful for us people. There are lots of bogs, to my knowledge, I think in Ireland actually. Oh, that's cool. Maybe we'll just add a little element to our standing stones of the founders. An apparent sacrificial slab, stained brown. Stained brown sits at the center of this disjointed gun. Oh, are there a lot of bogs in New Zealand, Wes? Call it the slumbering bog for now. They matter. Okay. So we've got these ancient burial mounds, standing stones of the founders, slumbering. And a description. This vast body of water cut through patches, sickly grass, and vast stagnant body of water is cut through with patches of sickly grass and a cloying mist that thin with rising of offering sites with small stone sit at the sit at the border between bog and stones. Ancient burial mounds. Done.
That is a good question, what it smells like. Broken gold. Sorry, just kind of reading through what everyone was saying. Procession where the deceased first given ceremony right near the stone, then toured around the bog and chanting while the family members drop offering stone bowls and lit some candles until they eventually arrive at the burial mound. Yes, and I think that the smell is actually an excellent thing. I didn't really think about it. I did not want. So I'm gonna just go ahead and add that because that's a lovely, lovely addition. What else? Scent of the bog stings nostrils. Snostrils, the nostrils. With fetid stink. Peat, ozone. Peat, petrichor, and ozone. It's a pity there's not a P word that can be used to replace ozone.
The pungent smell of peat petrichor.
Ah, the corpse flower. That is an excellent point. I'm really happy that you guys are kind of just carrying away with this. This is perfect. This is the kind of thing I want to do. Is senses are exactly the type of thing that you want adding. Now, granted, I think early on, personally, you don't want to add too many details because if you get carried away with the details of a certain place, you can lose track of the setting at large, and you want to kind of establish a set of locations, a set of stories. So we're already kind of creating the strands of a story here in this lovely tapestry. We have, created this idea that at one point there was a civilization who lived here that do not live here any longer. And that already is rife with story. That is a story. What happened to them? Right? There's all kinds of things we can talk about there. But I would like to take a break because it is 7 o'clock and I just want to take a quick breather, stretch my legs, get some water, and be back in a couple of minutes. Does that sound good to everyone? Breaks! Alright, we will be back in just a few. back. Everyone get the opportunity to get all set, get all ready. I think it's time to change up the mood sound one. Thank you very much. So something else about my noise and tib is they do have RPG sounds as well, so that's fun. They have one called Pripyat. A little too modern. Bells, perhaps. Okay. Particularly fond of low tones. There we go. That's not too loud, is it? Doesn't look like it on that end. Once upon a time, it was water. Okay, so we've created these ancient burial mounds in this slumbering bog. In the ancient burial mound. Bye-bye, my random cat. Thank you for joining us very much. Thank you for the input and your lovely experience. So, Tobias, earlier you had suggested the ancient burial mounds. I have a question for you. What do you think they look like? Okay. If they're ancient burial mounds, so they're oblong, so that they probably appear misshapen at this point. So, how tall do you think they are? You were walking up to one. I think it's quite large. Okay. I like that. Okay. Earthen mounds that appear misshapen. Appear misshapen from foot. All but completely invisible amidst rolling landscape and the high grasses of the bog. From above, it becomes apparent that the shape of these mounds were intentionally unique. Maybe even once having been animals or creatures. Some of them still resemble that. Okay, so Paramount Standing Stones of the Founders, Slumbering. I'm gonna just change the name of this. Instead of the Founders, we're just gonna go Standing Stones. And I'm actually just gonna change that because what initially started off as a religion idea realistically became a locale. slumbering bog is like. Ancient burial mounds are. So an important thing that we're going to have to do is figure out how to link these together, how their relationship will interact. And so at the moment, I'm just going to kind of group them and not really create any connections between them. But they will inevitably be connected. They might not necessarily be connected by their physical location relative to one another. They could be, but we might want to connect them by more philosophical things. This is, after all, just an information map. So now the question becomes, does anyone live near here? I think it'd be interesting if people lived near here. I mean, I imagine that the standing stones and the ancient burial mounds, even if they are creepy or dangerous, kind of attract a certain amount of attention. There's a hermit gravekeeper. I think that I will take that concept and alter it slightly. That there is a person who lives among the burial mounds. I'll call him the sage in the mounds. A person. I'm going to change person to they're a character. And I am actually going to add a connection to the ancient. So I clicked the plus sign, and I'm going to click add connection. Because I clicked add connection while the sage in the mounds was selected, it automatically filled in one half as being the sage in the mounds, and I'm going to connect it to ancient burial mound. And then I'm just going to hit enter. So now we have a line. And I get to define what type of connection. How dare you? Rude. Okay. So I'm going to, there's no connection types created yet, but I'm going to create one that's just going to be called home. And this connection type is what I'm going to use to organize what resides within where. And the sage is going to be and let me just look at the chat now real quick. Hermit Gravekeeper, Treasure Seekers, Bandit Camp. Bandits everywhere, always everywhere. Before we have bandits, I think we would need to first establish a civilization. Because bandits only exist to thrive off of civilizations. And so I think that is a good note that would come later. You can always store that in the back of your head, go, there's definitely bandits. You know, but to determine what they look like and the details that are more salient about them, we need to know first where they come from. So I really like that Hermit Gravekeeper thing, the stage in the mountains. Maybe, let's go ahead and said. Some believe they are a gravekeeper, while others think they are a crazy hermit. Nonetheless, they are wise, and some would brave the mounds to seek their counsel. A noble elven king? You know, I have a confession to make. I'm biased against elves, but, I would totally be game for that. And it really brings up an excellent question. Hey, you know what? We've stumbled onto something really big because elves are a canned setting element, right? I mean, Tolkien established in our minds, in the realms of fantasy, what an elf looks like. Except it wasn't really just Tolkien. Tolkien never gave elves pointy ears. That was Ralph Bakshi. And then everyone else followed suit. At least the elves in that in Tolkien's work. That is, he never described them as having. He just described them as beautiful. Nonetheless, it was one of those things that that was a little funny. Nonetheless, it has become kind of a meme. Elves, and I don't mean a meme as in like, a funny image, Right. So we could make elves anything. If we're gonna have something like elves, why call them elves? What role do elves fill in our setting? So, Kayla, you said, I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't be saying people's names. Happy Liver, you said, the Elven Noble Kingdom. So when you say an Elven Noble Kingdom, you mean something that is ultimately, like, highly civilized, ancient, and beautiful? Hey. Some neckbeards are fine people. Alright, so if you have an ancient civilization that are, that are, I think what I would personally do is I would say that what follows burial mound? A civilization. So there's a city nearby. In any scenario, irrelevant to who owns it, there is a physical city that has existed since before the current civilization owned it. I mean, have at it. Right. There's a city, guys. A city we have to work on. So, near these creepy burial mounds and creepy slumbering bog and the creepy standing stones, we have a big city. So what do you think would be a defining aspect of a city that some very flowy, beautiful, ancient peoples would admire or like? You think maybe there's like an impossible structure there? Like a tower that rises, I don't know, 1,000 meters into the air, a whole kilometer, just stained glass that has withstood the test of time? So it's just, I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Um,
The chromatic citadel.
no. The Singing Tower of Stained Glass. So it's just a massive tower that's got a lot of stained glass in it, and it has somehow stood the test of time. All right, let's roll with it. I'm just gonna call it the Stained Tower because I think that sounds more ominous. So the Stained Tower is realistically a point of interest. So I'm just gonna create a new type called POI. And it exists. It's a massive tower rises beyond the creations of any modern civilization while managing to be composed mostly of stained glass. Beautiful. No fields there. So then we still have to do the city. So the Stained Tower is in the city. We'll just call it city for now because I don't have a name and I sometimes hate coming up with names. And we're going to go ahead and I'm not gonna hit the plus sign. I'm gonna hit C to add a connection between the city and the Stained Tower. Cool. And the city is going to be Cal. So home connection just within that. So the only I really like that, Rose Dragoness. I think it's an excellent, wonderful idea for a setting that is more grandiose. Because I'm aiming for a setting that is going to be, what I wanted, slice of life. And if you wanted your players to never be able to really interact much with the elves, they could, but like it's not a big player, and elves, or whatever race they are, they wouldn't be able to be a part of any story as anything other than a plot element. And that's the problem with power level. Realistically, the power level you're aiming for in your story, But it is a really excellent idea. I love people's variations on races and such. I mean, honestly, one of my favorite variations of elves is from the Elder Scrolls. They're tree cannibals. That's gorgeous. Come on. And Puppy Lover suggested that the sage was originally from the city, but was kicked out so long ago that no one remembers. I can see that. Not. So, let's pause. So I think we've talked about quite a lot of things. For being too sagey. I really hate to bring Greek philosophers into this, but who was it that was killed? I don't remember, because I'm not into that. Ian! For, opposing the status quo. A lot of people. Yeah, Socrates. Nonetheless. So in this, we have managed to establish quite a lot. And so what I'm going to do here is, we created a couple elements. Amlockio. So let's go ahead and just skip down to add a heading 1. It's going to be ways to start. I'll format that later so it looks better. But then heading 1, content created. There is a region in the land, we'll assign that at some point, where a city, ancient city, resides. While the inhabitants are unaware of those who came before them, the marks of their passage found everywhere. A great tower of stained glass sits glistening center of the city's walls, and just through nearby bog, or just through a neighboring bog, one can find great burial mound that create forebodings in any venture too close. Likewise, standing stones that seem to predate city wall tower at its center act as a reminder that the world is an ancient and storied place, and not always nice. And characters: the Hermit of the Mounds, the Sage. There. I hope somebody clipped that. I have a philosophy question. Ian! Yeah, no, we do. We all know at this point. We all know. All right. So, I'm gonna just kind of pause on that. I'm gonna head over to Incarnate just to make it a blank. Because I don't think we have the really ability to kind of create a world yet. But we're starting. We're getting there. You know, the physical makeup of the world could begin with anything, and that is something that I think we could potentially cover. So I'll give you guys an option here. Do you want to start covering map creation before the end of the stream? Because I mean, I plan on ending at 8 o'clock and it's 7:30. Do you guys want to cover map creation? Would you rather talk more about just anything? Or would you rather build a couple more things around this?
The silence deafening.
All right. Well, with no input thus far, unless everything froze, I'll go ahead and I guess just about some map things. Ah, my mind is still wandering about the what if immortality is an alchemical undeadness. You know, that's a really excellent question to ask, and I really encourage you to like to explore it. Like really, that could be an excellent theme for a game. That could be an excellent theme for a setting. And the pursuit of that I could see being a story told in this setting. You know, I could see that being a thing where once upon a time, someone somewhere unlocked the formula to defy death. But I think I'd like to take a break on that personally, just because that gets a little deeper than I'd like to go at the moment. So why don't we just go ahead and, for the moment, let's create some physical connections. So the city in Kumu.io borders on, I would personally say it borders on the Slumbering Bog. And that to get to either the Slumbering Bog or the Ancient Burial Mound, that one or to get to the Standing Stones or the Ancient Burial, that one has to go through the bog. I think that would be compelling in a story way. I'm going to connect the Slumbering Bog to the Standing Stones. Connect the Slumbering Bog, Ancient Burial. And at the moment, I'm not naming these connection types because I'm not sure if we're going to keep them. The ones that are titled are the ones that have an actual relation. I could make a connection type of border, but all right. So now that we have that in mind, I think it would be a wonderful idea if we went ahead and created a landmass. You can always change. So the thing that's really nice about this particular program, about Incarnate, is instant land. So Incarnate is a beautiful program. So currently it just automatically sets you up with your mask tool. And it has this colored land right here. Just add or subtract. So if I do subtract, then it's a little smaller automatically, though I can change the size of it by dragging the size bar. And this is an actual world map, so I don't plan on making a very large. But map making, that is a whole topic that I think we're going to cover in depth a bit more later. But I wanted to showcase, at least for you guys, Incarnate, so we can not have to describe it too in depth. But Incarnate's tools are wonderful because you have, beyond the mask tool setting up your land masses, adding and subtracting, and doing all kinds of fun things. Like if I want to create an archipelago, I can do that. Or just like a tiny mass of land like that. What's really nice is I can also then change the texture, and I have a million textures at my disposal. And this is all because I have a paid premium account with them, but it's really, really worth it. Really, really worth it. There's even more too. I only have Fantasy World selected right now. But yeah, it's here. I'll just go ahead and give a link. Incarnate.com. Check it out. Definitely use it. If you like playing with maps, please utilize it. It's beautiful. So for this particular place, I'll just go ahead and do a grass thing to show you guys. So the brushes are they use soft edges. And you can change the softness. So if it's up all the way right now, but I can lower it down so it's just very hard edged. But personally, I think the soft aspect is quite nice. Yeah. So Incarnate has some very beautiful textures, but then you also have the ability to create stamps. I created that stamp. I'm gonna delete that. I don't want it. But I'm gonna look for some hills in here. Hills. Go ahead and go with. They're quite small, but you just add a stamp. Pop, pop, pop. I'll zoom in so you can actually see them. There it is. The magnification tool, I always forget. So it's a little blurry because I'm zooming in so far. This is a 2K map. They make a 4K one, but I didn't want to kill the computer while streaming. And yeah, you get to add all of these lovely stamps to your map. And like they've even got a world tree one. The amount of things available is phenomenal. And when you're map making, typically you don't want to overdo it. So like cluster of 3 mountains, I think that could very well and easily describe burial map. Created some text. Out. A bit long. This slightly. And burial mount. But nonetheless, as you can kind of get an idea for how this is going to be really, really useful, because we're going to be able to very easily grab hold of whatever we need, change it as necessary. So I'll probably end up changing that at some point. There are different types of hills. You can choose types of ones. Otherwise, it often randoms them so that way you get a variety in what you're. But Incarnate is my favorite map making tool in the world. It's just gorgeous. But we are nearing to the end of everything here. So at this point, was there any burning questions anyone had for me, or comments, emotional outbursts, things like that? Change out Belle's breath for something a little bit more lighthearted.
Will you see?
There is a when a mummy and a daddy love each other very much, Mephistopheles appears at the door and says, "Hey, do you want this kid?" Does that satisfy you, puppy lover? Does Mephistopheles satisfy you? Fantastic. Well, because I don't want to get too far into anything else, and I mean, like I said, we are approaching the end here. Oof, that's a topic for another time. So again, my name is Bran. This has been Worlds and Crafts, a setting building stream where we're going to talk about mechanics, meta plots, and minutiae of various different settings. But for the most part, the one we're making. Every Wednesday, you'll get the opportunity to join us to actively create a setting where you can contribute to the elements therein, and we will be covering everything we can from conceptualizing into detailing out things, creating existing plots within the world, and also taking a measure of discrimination in how much we create versus how much we avoid creating, because there's an importance in meaningful pauses that we will also cover. So yes, either way, if you like this podcast, wow, if you like this stream and you would like to see more content, please check us out at Gehenna Gaming on Twitter. I think it's Gehenna Gaming, or is it Gehenna Games? If somebody could hit the promo thing. We do also have a Patreon, so please check us out on Patreon. I think I can do that right here. I sure can. So if you like this content, we've got a lot more like it, a lot more horror oriented too. Lots of conversations and interviews. Thank you very much, Broken Golem. I don't actually all know the commands yet, so please check out our content. And you can follow me on Twitter at Kathakaros. That is Kathakros. It is in fact also my Twitch name, so you can see it right there in chat. I am an Ancilla with Gehenna Gaming. I do run games for Gehenna Gaming as well, and yeah. So find us. Come and join us on Discord if you're not a member already, because we're a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun. And as far as the song goes, Puppy Lover, I mean, I thought I was good, on the song. But I mean, if you really need me to sing something else, what is it? I don't know that song. Sweet Dreams. Oh, that song. Oh, I do know that song. Okay. Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? I traveled the world and the 7 seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them want to abuse you. Some of them want to be abused. Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? I traveled the world and the 7 seas. Everybody's looking for something.
Is that satisfactory?
Because I don't really feel like singing "Hold Your Head Up, Keep Moving On" over and over and over and over and over. All right. So Let me just make sure I covered everything. We got all the social media stuff done. Yeah, you know, you just gotta get Mark and Rick to do it. Rick won't be difficult, Mark might be. But, yeah. I'm gonna check out Canva between this stream and next. I'm also gonna see if I can, maybe get a landmass going for our game, for our map. That way, we have something to actually work with. And I can potentially go over landmass creation, but I think it would be a lot easier if that was just covered in a video. And there are plenty of excellent videos already out there, so we can, link some of those up. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing you all next week, 6 o'clock, Wednesdays, 6 p.m.
Join me.
And thank you very much for all of your input and being a lovely Bran out.